I always loved music, but I never thought that music could sound this good. I had no clue because nobody showed me a hi-fi sound system before. If you love music too, hearing a hi-fi sound system might be a revolution in your life. Maybe that happened to you already, and maybe you've decided that you wanted such a sound system to be part of your life. It takes an audiophile to create another audiophile, and hopefully after this video, you'll be part of our group. I wish I had seen a video like this one when I started my audiophile journey. It would have saved me a lot of time and some costly mistakes. Welcome to the Bast Audiophile with your host, the Bast, an audiophile. What are the things that I've wished someone showed me at the beginning of my hi-fi journey? Well, my story might be like yours. When I started, I just reached to one of my friends who knew about music and gear, and I told him, here's my budget, can you help me buying a sound system? He accepted right away and brought me to the best store he knew of. I listened to the advice of the salesman and I had no clue what I paid for. I went home though and I really enjoyed the sound. I was very impressed. There was a subwoofer, which is a speaker dedicated to bass sounds, and it made a huge difference in the sound. I did enjoy my first system for a long period of time. Today I wish I would have spent at least twice the budget to get a real impressive result. And at that time I could have afforded, but I had no clue at that time that I would love so much music playback. As of today, I have resold every single piece of gear of that original sound system. I don't have anything left from that system. I have purchased new and more performant items one by one, and I enjoy much more music today. In some cases, I've paid too much, or I have purchased the wrong equipment. I've learned through the journey. But once you get the audiophile bug, it's very hard not to take risks and try new stuff all the time. Also, once you've heard the great machine, whatever it's a source, a preamplifier, an amplifier, or a speaker, once you've heard good sound, it's very hard to accept to go down in quality. Because once you've heard the difference, you can't go back in time. Your standards can't be where they were before. So that's the audiophile bug. It's true in terms of music selection and in terms of equipment. You can't go back to lower quality. So that's a brief review of my audiophile journey up to the HiFi system that you see now behind me. And my story is not over. I have a cassette deck and a reel-to-reel machine in reparation at the moment, so it's coming. Still, I will still want to improve the sound of my HiFi system every time. I know it's possible and it became my hobby. Based on that sound system today, we'll review together how to build a HiFi sound system for your needs. To answer that question, first, we'll have to learn the audiophile alphabet, meaning every single piece of gear necessary to build a HiFi system. We will need to better understand every single component of the audio chain, not only from your sound system, but from the production of music, so from the microphone of the singer up to the speakers of the HiFi system there. Many equipment intervene in the definition of sound, and it matters to know which one affects what you hear and how. This is the only way for you to know where you can improve your sound system over time and how you can enjoy your music even more. That's the goal. So first we'll review some theory, then we'll see how to build a sound system together. This video is a reference video for all the other videos of this channel, so pay close attention and try to watch it until the end. It's the basis of this channel. So let's start. There's about 10 minutes of theory to review together now, and a lifetime of practice for you after. The 10 minutes of theory that I'll present, nobody showed me. I had to watch countless videos on YouTube. I still learn today and try to figure out things by myself. Feel free to comment and improve my understanding of HiFi if you can. It's never over for me. Hopefully, you'll appreciate and remember the following theory for all your life. So here it is. The whole audio chain. It's a chart that starts at the left and ends at the right, where we will review everything in details now. First, you can see two sections, two boxes with different equipment. The production section and the audiophile section. The production section is the one that musicians and record labels control. The audiophile section is the one that you can control. Everything starts with the musicians. They interface with microphones and instruments line. This is the real source. They then have the opportunity to select their recording equipment and the recording company that will guarantee the quality of the music product. Again, we have no control on that selection. We have to deal with what we will receive as an audiophile. Sometimes the recordings are good, sometimes they're really good, sometimes they're bad and terrible. You may read audiophile magazines if you want to learn more about recordings, and most likely you must trust your ears when you hear some. Anyway, the audio chain starts with the microphone and instruments. They're connected to a preamplifier to increase the tiny signal coming from the microphone or the instruments. Then the amplified signal is sent to a compressor. The compressor makes sure that all volumes don't go too high. When that happens, it creates a distortion. Most of the time, this causes damage to the listening experience. Producers adjust and shape the sound by controlling the attack and the release of the sound in the compressor. They can control the gains of each of the frequencies as well. From the compressor, the signal is sent to an equalizer, also called EQ. The equalizer is like this. It's a machine where you can balance the low frequencies, the bass, the mids, and the high frequencies. To better understand this, I invite you to view our video How to Take Care of Our Audiophile Ears, episode 77, where we review the different frequencies and how we hear them. The music producers who manage the mix will try to position each instrument on the frequency spectrum in order to have room to breathe. Meaning, for instance, you will position the bass guitar and the drums in the low frequencies with the EQ. Then the guitar will take the low mids and the voice the mid-mid and the low-high frequencies. The cymbals and snare of the drum set will be positioned in the high frequencies with the EQ. This is just one example of the use of an equalizer called EQ. From the EQ, many other machines can intervene to shape the sound. Different effects can be applied to the signal. The most common one for the voice is a reverb. Here we present the de-esser, which removes partly the sibilance of the consonant like S or T that can sound harsh at times. Every machine presented can be all regrouped into one machine. That machine is called a channel strip. It's a combination of all the equipment for one channel. Some producers decide to use a channel strip instead of all the equipment. Preamplifier, compressor, EQ, de-esser, and so on. This video recording is made possible using a special channel strip, the TubeTech MMC1A. It doesn't have an EQ, either a de-esser, but instead it's a multi-compressor, meaning that this channel strip compresses the bass, the mids, and the highs at different compression levels, doing a little bit like an EQ. A marvel of machine designed by John G. Peterson. Now, from all the machines presented, the signal can be recorded on a large tape that we call a master. This is for the analog version, which is rare today, since most recordings are made digitally these days. Instead of a tape, today's recording go on a computer using an audio interface that will digitalize the signal, meaning that it will convert the analog signal to digital, then send it to a computer where the mixing and the mastering will be made. Here you can see my audio interface. It's connected to my computer. I use a software that we call a DAW to mix and master the sound. The DAW I use is Ableton Live. This completes the production part of the audio chain. The masters produced will be used to create streams or CDs or vinyls and so on. You as a consumer have the ability to choose which product you buy. For the same recording, there can be different productions. There are 4 different qualities. It's up to you to be informed and to recognize the best value. Unfortunately, many good music are not well produced, which can ruin the performance of the musicians. Having that said, there are fantastic albums that are badly recording, like my collections of rare Bob Marley songs. We have no control on that, and lo-fi, meaning low fidelity productions, can be sometimes really well appreciated. Now, the part that we control is the audiophile section, the equipment that we own at home, starting by your phone or your computer. If you listen to music over your smartphone, there's a whole world of music that you're missing out on. Of course, it's legal to use your smartphones on your computer speakers, but that's debatable. You need good speakers to listen to music. That's a must. And speakers need a preamplifier and an amplifier to work. Now, sometimes everything is included in the speakers. These speakers are called active. You will recognize them easily if they have a power cord and you need to plug them into an outlet for electricity. That means that they have an amplifier built in. If they're not active, there's no amplifier inside. They need an external amplifier. They're called passive. For those, you need to buy a preamplifier and an amplifier separately. What is the difference between a preamplifier and an amplifier? Consider that the amplifier is the brute force. It boosts the signal greatly, while the preamplifier is more delicate. It takes the signal from the source at a fragile level. It brings the sound to a point without damaging it. The preamplifier is also the machine where all the sources are connected to. Sometimes these two machines can be combined together, meaning that the amplifier and the preamplifier are built in the same frame, in the same machine. It's called, therefore, an integrated amplifier. My amplifier is an integrated amplifier. I purchased the Billy Amp Mark II a few years ago, and the preamplification section has only 2 analog inputs, meaning that I can only connect a turntable and a tuner, or a cassette deck and a reel-to-reel. For that reason, because it's limited, I purchased also a mixer. It compensates the limitation of the preamp section of my integrated amplifier by allowing to connect many machines up to 4. Anyhow, the preamplifier, the amplifier, and your speakers must have a synergy, meaning that they must be compatible technically as well as sound-wise. They must complete each other's weaknesses and strengths. More on this later in this video. But quickly, if you want to connect your speaker to an amplifier or an integrated amplifier, you need to check the power of the amplifier versus the capability of your speakers. For that, you need to read the technical specifications of both machines. The tech specs, as we call them, must be compatible. First, your speakers will have a wattage spectrum of tolerance. My speakers are the Totem Tribe Towers. They work well between 50 watts to 200 watts at 4 ohms. Then you must make sure that your amplifier's power is in those limits. Your speaker and your amplifier must match. If you don't look, you could destroy your speakers. So far, we've discussed the production audio chains, then covered the audiophile chain from the preamplifier to the speakers. But there's a missing link, and it's the source. Whatever we play, we need a support. Whether it's a file, a CD, a vinyl record, a cassette tape, a radio frequencies. The source is the key for defining the sound we hear. There's 2 types of sources. There's digital sources and analog sources. The digital sources are your phone, your computer, but also your CD player or a music streamer. And the analog sources are the radio, also called tuner. That machine requires an antenna. They can be also a cassette deck to play cassette tapes, a reel-to-reel to play large tapes, a turntable to play records that we call also vinyls. All analog sources require analog cables. There are 3 main types of analog cables. First, the most common one is RCA, the red and white little cables that we see everywhere, like this one. Second, some people use as well XLR, also called balance. There are big connections like this one with 3 pins. The third one being a ground. They're mostly used for production because they can work over a long distance, which is necessary for musicians. The third analog connection is called TRS. They come in 3 formats: 3.5mm, 4.4mm, and 6.5mm. TRS connectors are mostly used for headphones. These are the 3 types of analog connectors that we can use to connect sources to a preamplifier or an integrated amplifier. In the analog world, there is one exception for the source, and it's the turntable. The turntable requires an extra machine. Since the voltage from the cartridge is so small and fragile, turntables require an extra preamplifier just to bring the signal to the level of the other sources like a cassette deck, CD player, or a streamer. The cartridge is too tiny of a signal. That specific preamplifier that we call a phono preamplifier will also establish the equalization for the music track at a normal level. Yes, the equalization of the vinyl records is changed when we engrave them. Otherwise, the bass would require the groove to be like 1/4 inches wide, which is not possible. The record companies agreed on that in the 1950s. So the record companies use an equalization standard that we call RIAA. So the turntable requires a preamplifier to bring the signal to an acceptable level and to convert to an equalization standard the signal. We'll dedicate a new episode soon on this topic. Today some turntables have a phono preamplifier integrated into them, so you don't need to buy an external one. You'll recognize these turntables easily by seeing a connector at the back that says phono. That means that there's a phono stage inside. A phono stage is another word for phono preamplifier. But most of them give you the option of having an external phono preamplifier using a connector called line. So if you see line, it means that you can use your own preamplifier. That's for the analog sources. Now, if you want to connect digital sources, things can get a little complicated quickly. Your phone, your computer, your CD player, or your streamer, they all need to convert the signal from digital to analog to be used by your amplifier. Some amplifiers are digital, so they do the conversion themselves. But most amplifiers are analog, so you need a special machine to convert the digital signal into analog. That machine is called a DAC, meaning digital to analog converter. Most digital machines have already a DAC built inside, like your smartphone, your computer, your CD player, or your streamer, but the DAC they have might not be that great. Yes, each DAC has a different sound signature. See our episode 78 on this topic. And most of the time, the DAC that's in your machine is not great, so you need an external one. That's why most audiophiles purchase a separate DAC to handle that conversion. In my case, my Billy Amp Mark II has a built-in DAC, but I'm currently looking for an external option. If you have any recommendation, I'm all ears for them. Like here, using an external DAC will improve your sound if your DAC is of good quality. Please notice that the signal goes in the DAC as digital and it comes out as analog, ready for the preamplifier. A very important aspect for the safety of these machines, but also to limit the background noise of the equipment, is that all these machines need to be grounded, meaning that there's some power management to do. Some of us will purchase a power conditioner to filter their power. More on this later in this video. Also, room management has to be done, meaning acoustic panels, carpet, and a good couch can change the sound. And this is a topic for our next videos that we'll make. Now, I told you that managing the digital signal can become quickly complex. The most fanatics of us will also purchase a network switch to connect all the digital equipment in network. They will add a DDC, meaning a digital to digital converter, and a LAN filter to purify and clean the digital signal. One thing that we've learned in our episode on DACs is that the digital signal is as fragile as the analog one, because it's an analog signal. Many of us will also add a master clock to coordinate the work of all digital machines. That brings more precision in the analysis of the data, and it opens the sound and creates more precise image with greater soundstage. But these digital pieces of equipment are really optional. It's just good for you to know that they exist at this point. But don't worry about them too much for now. The digital connections come in many different formats, and there's no standard yet. Different machines use USB-A, USB-B, USB-C, coaxial, Toslink, optical, HDMI, and Ethernet. And even within these connectors, like I2S, for instance, it can be the same connector but not the same standard. So please do read the technical specifications of each of the machines that you want to purchase before you can do any mistakes. You might end up buying the wrong machine, or you might missing an adapter to make the right connection. A lot of fun. Also, there are many debates on how each connector has a different sound. Add to that each machine is configured differently, with different circuits and capacitors. Each machine sounds differently, even if it's digital. Some are warm and natural, some are clean and analytical, some are muffled, some are cold, some are fuzzy, some offer a precise focus on the instrument, some offer a large soundstage. Many aspects in the sound can be different from a machine to another one. Whether it's for your analog gear or your digital gear, your machine will all sound different. As a conductor, you will have to compose and assemble a system, a HiFi sound system that sounds coherent to your liking, where you will try to reach synergy between your components, which brings us to the next section of this video. How to build yourself such a HiFi sound system. Take a global overview of the graph showed right now. The first thing is to understand that there will be a lot of machines to acquire. It's a lot of money, so understand that it's a lifetime project. Take your time and enjoy the journey as much as the result, and try to test and research before to buy anything. You will have to start somewhere and then improve slowly piece by piece. The first thing to do is to select your speakers. They will greatly define what is possible and which machine to select. Speakers comes in all sizes and technologies. Choosing the right speaker for you depends on your taste and in the room you'll have in your life. Will you live in a house with a large room? Therefore, you can have large speakers, or will you live in an apartment? Therefore, small bookshelf speakers will be more appropriate. Big speakers in small room cannot really create a good sound. The walls limit the sound waves possible, and it changes the frequency's behavior. Once you know if you can go small or large speakers, you may qualify their sound, meaning that you can choose what you want. Do you want an analytical sound, a more clinical and detailed? Do you want warmer and welcoming and cozy sound? Or do you want more open and technical sound with a large sound stage where you can experience sound with a 3D effect? The sound you want will direct you to the right speaker company and model. Please watch YouTube reviews on different companies to learn about their sound and what you think you can like. You can also go to an HiFi store and ask to listen to different products from different companies. Then you go back online at home and you research these products. Maybe they have competitors at better prices or performance. YouTube reviewers will give you a good indication. Once you've selected the right speaker, the sensitivity of the speaker will tell you what kind of amplification to look for. Some speakers are very sensitive. Generally, when their sensitivity is above 90 dB, you can look in the tech spec for that. If your speakers are very sensitive, therefore you can go for a lower power amplifier. It gives you more options. You can look for different technologies like tubes for a warmer sound. Some speakers are less sensitive and require a lot of power, like their sensitivity will be below 85 dB. Therefore, you need an amplifier with over 100 watts of power and a lot of good power conditioner for the electricity. Make sure to read any technical specifications of the speaker you have chosen before to buy any amplifier. In fact, it's a good habit to read the technical specifications of every single piece of equipment you buy before to buy them. You don't have to read necessarily the manuals, and many of us don't, but reading the technical specification is a very good habit to get. It prevents the equipment from crashing and exploding. There's a lot of fun in selecting the right amplifier and preamplifier for your chosen speakers. The goal is to find the right balance between the three machines: preamplifier, amplifier, and speakers. If your speakers are very revealing with a lot of details, then you might prefer a warm preamplifier with a transparent amplifier to counterbalance the speaker's sound. What you want is to find a point of balance where your gear act in harmony, something's more refined. If your speakers are already warm and forgiving, your ears might benefit more from a technical and detailed combination of preamplifier and amplifier. Maybe for budget considerations, space considerations, or simply if you care about the synergy of your equipment, you might decide to go for an integrated amplifier. There are plenty of good options, like the Billy amp that I have. Although once you've selected an integrated amplifier, which is my case, you're kind of stuck and have less flexibility to define your sound playing with different preamplifiers. So I feel a little bit stuck now that I have an integrated amplifier. Once you have your speaker amplifier combination, you can look for the source. You can go for vinyl, CD players, streamers, cassette deck, reel-to-reel, radio, and so on. There's many options and different qualities are possible. Please note that the source is the sound. The more expensive usually will give you more information, more details in your music, and more natural sound. I recommend you to start with one or two sources and start to play with them and to extend your music catalog as well as your learning knowledge. So what type of equipment sounds the best with your amplifiers and speakers. You can read online and watch YouTube to learn more about different source components and their companies. Usually reviewers will describe the sound. This can direct you to a different product more than another. But please again, before to buy, try to find the right balance between your equipment. It's very important to understand the sound of each part of your system in order to be able to develop a synergy, something that makes a right balanced sound proper with all the qualities that you're looking for. So what do you want for your hi-fi sound system? Do you prefer details or soundstage or coziness? If you can, try to analyze each part of your sound created by the speakers, the amplifier, and even the preamplifier. The more you'll exercise your ears, the more you'll learn about your taste Pay attention to the company's name and the different products and models they have, and always go back and research more on them after listen. Learning about gear becomes then a culture. Once you have your source, your amplification chain, and your speakers, you can then look for cables. Again, different types of cables can taint and shape your sound. Silver cables, for instance, are more technical and detailed. Copper cables are more round and warm. There's other types of cables, there's hybrids, there's different budgets and even different technologies. Choose according to your budget and your taste. You can always go back and improve later on. Building a hi-fi sound system is a lifetime hobby. Once you have your equipment selected, you'll find pleasure in improving the acoustic of your listening room. You'll buy probably acoustic panels, diffusers, absorbers, reflectors, and bass traps. You'll pay attention to electrical power and the electrostatic and electromagnetic configurations of your system. You might then buy a power conditioner in series or in parallel. You will pay an electrician to build a dedicated line for your hi-fi sound system. You will have him install a dedicated ground. You will separate and suspend your cables on little blocks and treat your equipment against any vibration. It's being a little bit fanatic or being passionate, depends on how you want to see it. The more you'll train your ears and talk with other audiophiles, the more you will hear differences. Every time you add a new component in your system, take time to listen to it and decide what does it need next. More detailed, more clarity, more warmth, more bass, more soundstage. You can play with different components to improve the sound of your system and work on the synergy of it. That is part of the audiophile hobby. So where to start? If you have to invest in a sound system, I would recommend that you build first a whole audio chain, meaning every equipment at low price. Then you have your whole life to improve every single component to build a synergy for your whole system and discover your own taste, upgrading one component at a time, including the room you're in and all the systems that are built in the room. No components is really more important than the other, frankly. It's more a chain where each component matters and shapes the final results. It's a construction of details. The room and the speakers directly defines your sound signature, but the source will define the essence of what's played. More than often, the weaker point will define your sound characteristic. So consider the overall system. That's why I show you this audio chain chart. So the hobby of hi-fi needs more an approach where you try to balance the synergy of your system. It's more holistic. Does your system need speed or more dynamics, or does it miss some bass? In one case, the solution might be to have more efficient speakers or to upgrade to a new amplifier for more power. In other cases, adding a subwoofer might be the solution for the bass problem. You miss soundstage, try a better DAC, a master clock, a new phono preamplifier, new speakers. Solutions are countless. There's so many options. It's part of the pleasure of hi-fi to try to define your taste with the appropriate gear. And each music genre requires a different performance for your hi-fi sound system. Do you listen to more rock, hip-hop that are more focused on bass? Or do you listen to more jazz and classic that are more focused on the mid-range and the high frequencies? That changes your gear, as well as the focus of the synergy you're looking to. Also, in general, if you want to improve quickly the sound of your sound system, people usually consider investing first in a subwoofer, a carpet, and a sofa to absorb the sound. These make huge changes and improvements in the sound system sound. Through all that journey, it's important never to lose the end goal, which is to enjoy music. That is important because sometimes our focus becomes too technical and sometimes we miss the whole picture. Also, some very, very costly mistakes can bring our attention somewhere else. Remember that it has to be fun, and it's simply a hobby. It's a hobby, but it's important. John Lennon said, "Time that you enjoy wasting wasn't time wasted." In conclusion, we presented a lot of information in this video. We hope that you appreciated and learned something. and that you had fun as well, because I had fun making it. Feel free to explore our past episodes to continue your audio journey. You're welcome as well to subscribe to this channel to follow our future episodes. Please comment so we can learn about you and what matters to you. Your comments do help. If you look at our first episodes, you'll see that there's greatly a progression due to your comments. If you want to be part of the making of the process of these videos and chat with me while I'm making them, you're kindly invited to follow our Patreon. The link is down below. Finally, if you're a manufacturer and you want us to review your unique product, something that will interest our users, you're kindly invited to write me at the email provided in the About section of this YouTube channel. We hope to see you in our next video. Until then, take care. We look forward to read your comments. Goodbye.